It is 4 p.m. We're redeveloping news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lake.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stores are watching this Friday, the weekend, October 17. Public Works Undersecretary Aray Perez has submitted his irrevocable resignation amid allegations of links to contractors. This is in light of claims of Batangas 1st District Congressman Leandro Lebiste that the DPWH has appointed people connected to contractors. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has immediately accepted Perez's resignation.
Still on contractors, Curlee Discaya will remain under Senate custody after a Pasay court denied the habeas corpus petition that he filed. The court ruled that there was insufficient evidence to prove Discaya's claim of grave abuse of discretion during his detention. Discaya is reportedly planning to appeal the decision.
Health Secretary Ted Herbosa visited the Independent Commission for Infrastructure this morning to discuss his ongoing investigation into unused super health centers. He reports that more than 300 centers are still inactive due to lack of electricity, water, or personnel. Herbosa vows to inspect all facilities and monitor service delivery.
U.S. federal prosecutors in Miami have charged voting technology firm Smartmatic with money laundering and other crimes. That's over more than $1 million in bribes allegedly paid to Philippine election officials between 2015 and 2018. The payment supposedly secured a contract for the 2016 Philippine presidential elections, according to a new indictment filed in Florida. Smartmatic has denied all the allegations, claiming the case is politically motivated. The firm is also pursuing a separate defamation case against Fox News.
And joining us today, wala pa rin si Tito Ral Llamas, pero kasama pa rin natin si Editor-in-Chief Aming Pamintuan. Uy,
Hi everybody.
Polka
Hi,
dots.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Tama ba yan, Polka Dots?
Polka dot. Polka dot. Raindrops keep falling on my head.
I
Punta
just,
pa siya.
oo nga eh. At si Ami takes every chance to sing, which is good. I just realized parang camouflage ako against our backdrop. Why am I wearing this color blue?
Oo nga eh.
So, palitan natin
Oo
yung
nga.
backdrop.
Palitan na nga natin yung color. But,
Ayan o, ayan. Okay na.
O, lahat tayo blue.
very
May
blue.
white ako.
Baka nandyan sa inyo si Ronald, Ami. He's
Baka sumama doon sa mga estudyante, nagrarally uli eh.
Oh, may rally natin. It's a
MIA.
Friday. Di ba it's every Friday? Hindi kasi, baka lang
Sa
sakaling...
UP, saka sa ano.
Baka lang sakaling si Ronald ulit nandyan sa inyo. Yung meron kayong lugar na parang may photo booth eh. May photo me.
Oo nga.
photo me.
Wala ngayon. Wala ngayon.
Alam mo, yung may
The
kurtinang-
man of mystery is MIA.
Yung may kurtinang napapalitan yung kulay.
Oo. Baka sumama doon sa mga White Friday protest.
Okay, so there you go.
Ayan o,
there
ayan
you
o.
go.
O, yan yung mga protesta ng mga estudyante. Karamihan mga estudyante nag-ano eh. Pero meron din sa Mendiola. Yun o, may walis.
Parang halos every week meron na mga walkout protests within the
Yan,
campuses.
Yeah,
No?
well, remember
Parang tuloy-tuloy na to.
they earlier announced it was supposed to be every Friday.
It seems it is being sustained at this point, di ba? Yung outrage is being sustained. Of course, leading up to November, was it 30th or 21st?
November 30.
30, November 30, sorry.
So, mahaba-haba yung may long weekend yung bata. May long weekend, di ba?
Ano, long weekend ba yun?
Kung hindi siya pumasok ng Friday, ikaw kasi. Hindi ka na makarelate, gano'n.
Malayo na eh. It's been many, many years.
Although, tanda mo nung panahon natin, pag nag-rally sa UP, mainit talaga. Talagang, sa bagay, iba yung sitwasyon nun eh.
Saka medyo medyo violente nun kapag nagkaka-enkwentro yung mga nagrarally sa yung mga pulis eh.
Tsaka nung panahon yun kasi,
Diba?
pag mag-rally ka, medyo delikado yung ginagawa mo. Kasi there's a significant portion of the population that's against what you're doing. Ito, I suppose naman ito, generally, a lot of people agree with protesting against
Yeah.
corruption. So actually, that could even be a danger. Baka it might become more of a trend than anything.
Lalo nakikita natin sa ibang bansa. Nakita mo sa Madagascar kung ano nangyari. Sila pinaka-latest nag-take over yung military, which is something we don't want. Although may mga kumakalat na ganyan, di ba? Yung civilian military junta na dinideny naman. Wish ko lang daw, sabi ng Malacanang.
Ugi. Ami, so anong top story niyo for Friday?
Puro mga, yung imbestigahan nga ng yung super health centers, 300 na, no? At saka may sinabi si Ombudsman Remulla.
Well,
Nililink
actually,
niya sabi niya, iimbestigahan niya yung mga senador.
well, actually, we're waiting for his press conference to start. I think just before we went to air, naka-ready na they announced a press conference, pero we're still waiting for it to start. So we'll carry that as soon as it's live. But also there's some developments on the investigation. Well, not the investigation per se, pero the lawyer of the Discayas has confirmed that hindi nila nagustuhan yung sinabi ni commissioner, one of the commissioners in the ICI. They didn't name who, but it's easy enough to guess. It's that it's Babe Singson. Hindi daw nagustuhan nitong si Sarah Discaya when Babe Singson commented, gave an interview to Karen Davila saying that they likely wouldn't qualify. I can't remember the exact wording, but they wouldn't qualify as state witnesses at this point. Hindi sila yung least guilty kasi.
But if you look at the rules on criminal procedure, the amended rules on criminal procedure, which is promulgated by the Supreme Court, nandun kasing, I think it's rule number 19, andun yung qualifiers or qualifications mo on how you can be or not be a state witness. And among the qualifiers is, number one, you cannot be hindi least guilty You cannot
most
be
guilty. You are not the most guilty.
You are not the most guilty. That's the qualifier. Walang qualifier that you have to be the least guilty.
Least guilty, which is two different things.
Completely different things. Kasi you might be the least guilty kasi wala kang kaalam-alam. Eh di anong saysay mo sa testimonya? There's no point in getting you kung wala kang kaalam-alam.
Apparently, they also took issue with the fact that, what was the other issue? Yung nakikita nila sa media, the coverage of the Discayas, and this lawyer said, at some point, question niya bakit sila lang daw yung pinaginitan. At least in the media, he's saying, where are the other contractors? Bakit daw hindi yun yung kino-cover?
Tinigil kasi ng Congress
How to answer that?
Sila yung nilabas Sila yung alam natin
Yeah.
Tinigil ng Congress. Wala namang nilalabas yung ICI.
Yes. And
kung may nakikita ba tayo na binabanggit sa ICI na investigation, why will we not report about it? Di ba?
And the thing is kasi,
binabanggit naman natin yung contractor na nag-contribute kay Senate President Cheese.
Centerways Construction.
Malaman natin yun narinig natin yun Wala na ako iba naririnig Sige nga.
Yeah. And I suppose the only time that you can complain about being picked on is pagtapos ng investigasyon at ikaw lang talaga yung pinaginitan. Hindi pa tapos
I guess that is their sense. That is the sense. At least that's what the lawyer is trying
that's true.
to trying to frame this situation as, which is bakit sila lang yung pinaginitan ng media, ng public, ng investigators.
Pero nga, hindi pa kasi tapos.
Exactly.
Pangalawa, sila yung nagpapa-interview.
And also, a lot of the evidence ties back to them, right? Sila yung nag-drop ng list of congressmen and DPWH officials. They seem to be one of the biggest contractors. Remember, they had at least, 2 firms on the top 15 list, and there's at least 7 others that are being linked to them. So their hands are everywhere. in this investigation.
Saka hindi lang naman
They're
sila, yung mga
fingerprints.
kontratista din na linked to Saldico. Nire-report din yon extensively. Actually, ang naka-attract ng attention doon, kasama na sa naka-attract ng attention sa kanila, yung mga previous yung video nila na, yun na nga na living it up.
Oo nga,
Diba?
nagpa-interview sila.
Yun yung unang, yun yung pinagmulan
Doon nagsimula
nun.
With the Pico Soto.
Pinagmamalaki mo yung mga katakot-takot mong kotse, yung napakaganda mong bahay, di tinanong ng mga tao, saan ba galing yung pera niyo?
The other thing is this, I'm sorry, it was Rule 119 pala, 119 ng Revised Rules on Criminal Proceedings. It is not the ICI or the DOJ or the Ombudsman that will decide on who gets to become
It's
state
the
witness. It is the court. Perhaps on recommendation of the prosecutors, which may include the Ombudsman and the DOJ. Not necessarily yung ICI. ICI kasi will just recommend to DOJ and up the line. But in the end, it is the court that makes the decision on whether or not you qualify to be a state witness. Based on, yun nga, among other things, number one, you are not the most guilty. Number two, your testimony is critical in getting in getting convictions. Ibig sabihin na kailangan yung testimonya mo. Kung hindi, kung wala yung testimonya mo, hindi uusad ang kaso. Number three, there is corroboration of your testimony from other sources. And number four, wala kang conviction prior conviction on moral turpitude. So may mga ganung qualifiers.
The other big news this afternoon is si Yusek Aray Perez has resigned. It started because Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Luviste, first nagparinig siya that there are some DPWH officials that are connected to flood control contractors, and then later on, Vince Dizon challenged him to name them, and this morning he did name them, and one of them was si Yusek Aray Perez. The interesting thing here is si Yusek Perez has just joined DPWH actually, and he was before that he was the president of Metro Pacific Tollways, one of our sister companies. So kakalipat lang yung DPWH. He used to work with Vince Dizon, I believe, sa BCDA.
Former president ng Clark International Airport Corporation.
Correct. So they've known each other a long time. Tapos kaka-join lang niya kay Vince Dizon after Secretary Dizon allegedly asked for permission to bring him back to government. Pero yun nga, kaka-join pa lang and then this happened. And the interesting thing there as well is Yusek Perez also has not been at MPTC, Metro Pacific Tollways, for a long time. He was previously in the past announced as a successor to Babe Singson sa Metro Pacific Tollways. Pero somehow hindi natuloy yun. And then he was put in I think he was there for maybe 3 months or less. And then he was moved to regulatory affairs sa Metro Pacific Tollways. And then, and then...
I think that was November 2024, yung Metro Pacific.
So he said that chaotic last 12 months or so.
And then Insider.ph
So ano daw yung contracting company na nalilink sa kanya?
That's the thing. We don't know. So far, insinuations pa lang. Hindi rin sinabi ni Congressman Leviste what exactly he's accusing Yusek Perez of. Basta sinabi lang niya na there are some DPWH officials who have deep ties to flood control contractors. And after that, nag-resign na itong si Yusek Perez. So it's not clear what is being alleged here.
Although, did Libisas say specifically it's flood control contractors or simply contractors? Kasi
Contractor.
baka teka, I'm checking it.
Parang nakita ko yun somewhere that it was flood control.
Engage in any contracted government. Okay.
Yeah. But in any case, Vince Dizon said the investigation will continue regardless if Yusek Perez has stepped down. Regardless of the fact that Yusek Perez has stepped down, I mean. I don't know how far.
Not necessarily flood control, pero there are some contracts between Metro Pacific and the government, like Cebu Cordova Bridge Project, Subic Clark-Tarlac Expressway. So baka in general terms, contractor lang. Maybe not necessarily flood control. But then again, parang sinasabi ni Libise, parang hearsay that he was told by some legislators na may mga contractors dun sa team ni Vince Dizon. So it's not even a first person account eh.
And parang si Congressman Libise, parang he took issue, or at least he pointed out that si Yusek Perez was supposed to have been assigned to handle bidding for projects in Central Luzon, in the DPWH, not Central Luzon, Central Office. So he pointed that out, and I'm not sure again what he's trying to insinuate there. I guess that he also said that it's a really hard to avoid corruption in the DPWH.
Kasi mayroong mga contracts for Cavite, Batangas, na Sububawan Expressways, mga ganun eh. Manila-Cavite Toll Expressway, and so on. Of course, SETEX, and so on down the line. So, at least in general, contracts.
But that's the other thing that we're finding out as this investigation unfolds, right? Which is so many of them have links to contractors. Rappler also just put out a report connecting Senator Cheese Escudero even more so with another contractor.
Iba pa dun sa
Centerways. Sa Centerways, he accepted 30 million pesos daw. But per Rappler's reporting, yung sister din ni Senator Escudero is married to someone who is involved in government projects. And the sister is also a representative, is a congressman for the 1st District of Sorsogon, which has been in the family for a long time, right? So, you know,
actually, some people have also raised questions about Lebiste's donations to the mother, not because of him being a contractor, but because of him being a franchisee. That's also included in Section 95 or Article 95 of the Omnibus Election Code. Yung mga prohibited donors, contractors, those given franchises of government, and so on down the line. Kasama doon yung Solar ng Bayan Corporation ni Lebiste. I forget what year.
Tinitingnan siya ng COMELEC.
Yeah.
And speaking of sisters, kasama sa tinitingnan ni Ombudsman Remulla, yung sister ni former Senator Bong Revilla. Yeah, si Princess Revilla, who bagged several contracts daw. Yan, isa yon. Yan ang inaabangan natin ngayon, dyan sa press con. Kasi may mga binanggit siya mga senators na iimbestigahan. Kahapon, nabanggit na si Senator Bongo. And I will be waiting for more names today.
Alam mo, nag-viral din yung video ni Bong Revilla, sumasayaw kasama si
Kiko Barzaga. Congressman Kiko Barzaga. Hindi naman mukhang AI, di ba?
Hindi AI.
It's a real video.
Ang nag-post siya And then I was going through his social media account. Also for the May 2025 elections, he also endorsed Bong Revilla for the Senate. Bong Revilla and the Agimat party list of the Revillas. So,
well, he also endorsed President Marcos.
Talaga sila.
Well, yeah, but the irony is not lost on other people.
The irony is he was a staunch supporter of Uniteam back in the day, di ba? All of those old posts of his were coming up where he's endorsing...
Uniteam
but
naman
Uniteam
kasi
is 2022. Ito, we're talking about May this year.
Ano yun, Ami?
Magkakakampi naman sila kasi noon Hanggang ngayon, yung iba dyan magkakaibigan pa actually.
But ito, we're talking about May this year. And
alam
September.
Nyo na, makakampanya talaga yung campaign. Alam mo naman dito, pag kampanya, di ba, sayawan ng sayawan.
And yung sayawan niya with Bong Revilla was in September.
Sige nga. What was it like?
Ako, kanta lang Ito, sumasayaw
Baka mag-viral ka, Ed.
Anyway, let's move on. Okay. As several groups promised, Friday is a day of protest against corruption. Mobile Journal Jeff Rivera monitoring one such action in Mendiola, Manila. Jeff, kamusta dyan sa Mendiola?
Kakatapos na lang ng ginanap na programa para dito sa National Day of Action kontra Korupsyon. So kanina, no, punong-puno itong intersection ng mga estudyante mula sa iba't ibang estudyante sa mga universities dito sa Manila. Ngayon, kakaalis-alis lang nila at sila ay patungo sa Murayta. At ayun, paning lang natin ang konti. So,
Okay.
yung mga estudyante, nagmamarcha na sila doon papuntang
Wala.
at kakatula.
Jeff, napuputol-putol ka. Ulit-ulit.
Oo nga eh.
Ulit-ulit. Hindi ka naman na-gets.
Hello, Bong.
Okay, take 2.
Okay. Okay. So kakatapos lang ng programa na inorganisahan ng mga estudyante dito sa harapan ng Menjola Peace Arc. At ngayon, yung mga estudyante ay nag-disperse na dito sa harapan ng Menjola Peace Arc at papunta na sila doon sa Menjola para ganapin naman ang kanilang kilos protesta doon sa bandang Spanya naman. So iba't ibang estudyante mula sa mga universities ang lumahok dito sa ginanap na National Day of Action kontra Corruption.
JF, karamihan ba sa schools dyan sa U-Belt sumama? Yung mga estudyante yan from, ang dami-daming eskwelahan dyan eh. Halos lahat ba sila represented dyan? Would you know?
Yes, Abby. Lahat ng mga universities mula sa UBEL, sa TAP, pati sa Intramuros ay well represented dito sa ginanap na kilos protesta ngayong araw na to.
So Manila Universities pala yan. Pero may pasok ngayon, hindi ba? May pasok sila ngayon.
Yes, Abby, may pasok sila ngayon pero ang ginawa nga nila ay nag-walk out sila doon sa mga klase nila, no? Kanina, bago tayo papunta dito ay may mga nakita rin tayong nagkikilos protesta sa harapan mismo ng kanilang university, no? Doon sa Philippine National University, Philippine Normal University at doon sa Technological University of the Philippines. May mga estudyante din ang nag-umpisa ng kilos protesta doon mismo sa harapan ng kanilang eskwelahan.
Ay, yung TUP tsaka normal, di ba? Nasa Ayala yan, Ayala Boulevard, yung papuntang, kung saan nagkagulo noong September 21. Wala namang gulo ngayon, no?
Yes po, napakapayapa ngayon. Talagang nakikinig lang sila sa mga mensahe at sa mga panawagan, nakikisigaw sila sa mga panawagan at sinisigaw nila ang problema na nakikita nila ngayon sa ating bansa, lalong-lalo na sa korupsyon.
Parang wala ako nakikita mga pulis. Nasaan yung mga pulis?
Abi, yung mga pulis kasi nandoon sa likod ng barikada.
Barricade, okay.
Camera, baka andun sila sa likod ng may vapor na kasing hinarang dito. Kung matatandaan nyo, yung nangyari September 21 na rally dito sa Menjola, andun sila sa likod. Tapos meron din doon banda sa gitna na mga nakabarikada ring mga pulis para naman i-assist yung daloy ng trapiko. Sa ngayon, open na itong intersection na ito ng Ligarda Street, no? At kung papunta ka ng Ayala Bridge, no? Open na to. No? Kung kanina, sarado dahil sa ginaganap na programa ng mga estudyante dito sa harapan ng Menjola.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Mobile Journal JF Rivera, reporting live from Menjola, Manila.
Thank you, Jeff.
Kasama kaya mga teacher nila sa pag-walkout nila sa eskwelahan o ano?
May sarili din yata yung mga teachers, di ba? Action eh. May sarili silang grupo.
So hindi siya walkout.
Bakit di siya walkout?
Class activity.
Walkout ng estudyante.
Nung panahon kasi
Ikaw
namin,
para ka lawyer eh.
nung panahon namin, pag walkout kayo, nagagalit mga professor nyo, then you defy them. And that's.
But if they join you, hindi siya walkout. It's a class,
Well,
Class suspension.
I mean,
Parang-
iba lang, may nuancing lang ba? Pag you're being threatened by authorities because you're joining a mass action versus yung, halika, sama-sama tayo. Medyo iba ng konti yun.
This
Anyway,
is almost the same
Ewan,
argument.
hindi namin mag-gets. Hindi namin mag-gets.
Parang this is almost the
Uy,
same.
kasama ka nun.
This is almost the
Parang wala
same
yun.
argument as, yes, I took money from contractors, but so did everyone else.
No, of course not.
Di ba?
Layo. Mag-up na nga tayo. Naloko nyo kayo.
You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We've got developing news to the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I am Ed Lingao.
And I'm Regina Lay, still with us. Ami Pumintuan of the Philippine Star.
And also joining us this afternoon, Pulse Asia President Tito Ronald Holmes.
The other Tito Ronald. Namiss mo lang tawagin
The other Tito.
si Tito.
The other Tito Ronald. Tito Ronald.
Hi, Professor.
Ay, basta hindi ako heckler. Isa lang ang heckler.
Isa lang yung heckler. Eh. No, let's give him that title na. Baka magtampo pa yun eh.
Okay. Prof, so Pulse Asia released a survey covering many topics recently, no? Just a few days ago. The first thing I wanted to touch on was obviously the one that the big issue of the day, which is corruption. 54% of the respondents ranked inflation as the top national concern. No surprises there kasi inflation has always been a top concern, especially leading up to the midterm elections. What's notable is yung corruption naging number 2 na. It became 51% cited fighting corruption as an urgent concern. I remember earlier this year and also even last year, I believe corruption would have been 4th or 5th place. Tama? What do you make of
Always
this?
in the top, always in the top 5.
So ngayon number 2 na
but
tayo.
Now number 2, it used to be in the top 3 prior to the Aquino administration, given the scandals under the Arroyo administration and given the emphasis of the former president in terms of fighting corruption also.
So what do we make of this now that corruption is now back in the top 2 of national
But-
concerns?
It only means that people really have been attentive to all of the exposés that have come out recently with regard to the flood control project. Since we did the survey, maybe there was about a month and a half already of news reports with respect to anomalous ghost projects, substandard projects coming off from the State of the Nation address of Bongbong Marcos. So, yeah, and the scale of corruption that has been exposed is to the extent that, you're talking about billions of pesos. District engineers pocketing and using billions of pesos in casinos. So this is something that we've not heard of in the past. The last scandal we had with regard to the PDAF, the pork barrel in 2013, we were talking about millions of pesos. This time it's billions.
I remember that, sir. Kasi yung 10 billion pesos ng pork barrel scam was already parang a
Malaki na at
breathtaking,
that
a breathtaking amount already at that time. Now we're looking at trillions possibly. Parang biglang
Yeah,
lumiit yung pork barrel scam.
Insertions of more than 142 billion. So this is all of those news reports eventually lead the public. One of the things that we found in the survey is essentially that, and this has not been done for quite some time, people really think that corruption is normal and corruption is pervasive. And then that's a problem. We have not even gotten to the other forms of corruption that have happened or that are happening at present.
Professor, ang tinitingnan ngayon ng mga tao is the impact of this dismay of the people over corruption sa political climate natin. Kasi we're also looking at your surveys and the other pollsters. Pare-pareho mukhang may tama pareho yung dalawang pinakamalalaking kampo, no? Both the Marcoses and the Dutertes, pareho silang sa puli. Can you expound more on this?
Tama, Amin. If you look at the performance ratings and trust ratings about the president and the vice president, you will see a pattern there. Essentially, that the president is not doing well in the Visayas Mindanao, but the vice president is also getting lower approval and trust in NCR and the Balas of Luzon. So you have a geographic division. No? The only reason why the vice president's trust and performance or approval have not declined is largely because of the almost universal trust that she obtained in Mindanao. So there's this geographic polarization. I would not really call it polarization, but the tendency of people in Mindanao, maybe because they come from the same ethno-linguistic group and geographic area, to just simply show appreciation, approval, and trust towards the vice president. She's not saved from all of the accusations, of course. She refused to be held accountable for explaining the use of the confidential funds in 2023 also.
So that kind of
Actually,
skews...
hindi pa siya tinatamaan, ano? Hindi pa siya tinatamaan directly na itong scandal na to, eh. Kaya,
Hindi pa siya Hindi pa siya tinatamaan, Ami, but if we just simply trace back, during the latter part of 2024, when the Quadcom was going through hearings and the Good Governance Committee in the House was investigating the use of intelligence funds, that was the time that we saw her approval and trust dip. She was able to recover after the arrest of the former president, and that might be because of the narrative that they have woven with regard to the kidnapping and sympathy. And she has retained the trust and approval rating that she's had since March 2025. So she has been relieved of the pressure, essentially, because of these exposés, no? That are largely brought about, precipitated by a statement coming from the president with regard to flood control projects during the State of the Nation address.
But also, sir, I suppose kasi whatever numbers we were talking about last year dun sa kanyang confidential funds, I'm talking about the VP, of course, they're obviously dwarfed by the amounts that we're seeing now involving people who are nowhere near the rank of the president or the vice president, simple district engineers down the line. Diba? So that kind of, I suppose that...
And the web is big.
And it's getting bigger. So I'm wondering lang, of course, I don't know if you have any numbers on this, pero would the enormity of the flood control scandal basically shift attention away from the VPs? As you said nga kanina, nag-dip yung ratings ni VP because of the confidential funds issue. Eh. But would this new scandal shift the attention away from last year's big issue and therefore insulate her from further dips?
Unfortunately, Bob, that's what has happened, no? Since March. Essentially, the attention has been diverted away from the impeachment, away from the use of the confidential funds, a series of events, and most especially given the enormity of the pilferage, no, or plunder of public funds that have been exposed related to the flood control, health centers, school buildings, farm-to-market roads. And I'm pretty sure that there will be other things that will come out. So, and it's not a question of the amount, no? Because if you cannot explain how you spent 125 million in 11 days, that to me is an important refusal to be held accountable for the misuse of public funds that the Vice President has to explain. And maybe that's one thing that has to be pursued by agencies in government. It's not just flood control projects, but also everyone else who has really abused their power.
You're saying that should still be pursued, pero do you think that people would still be that interested? I get what you mean, sir. I mean, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Pero
I also get what you mean. You know, parang it's the pot calling the kettle black. Also, parang, that's a problem here. You know, you're pursuing me for 125 million, but
Yes,
you're
sir.
a district engineer that has amassed about 1.4 billion in terms of casino
and they can spend
earnings.
half a billion in one night.
Well,
Yeah, so
more
but
than-
it doesn't take out the responsibility of any public official in terms of really explaining why the funds that they have been allocated are not spent or how it was spent. No? And she has refused to be held accountable for that.
More than the question of whether the public would still be interested, that's beside the point. I almost feel kasi, okay, if you're not interested, that's fine. They still have to pursue, get to the bottom of this case, right? But the problem the other problem I see is yung trust in the institutions is very low at the moment. So I'm looking at the numbers for the Senate. Big trust is what, 37%. Office of the Ombudsman, 39%. 23% lang yung big trust for the ICI, and DPWH is at 7%. I don't know if you've been tracking them before, or this is the first time you've tracked trust ratings for the DPWH. But what does it say about us that the people's trust in the institutions are this dismal?
And Regina, maybe I should add there that media is the only one that obtained majority trust with regard to addressing the problem of corruption. And I hope that
Kasi
media
kami
will
umaamin kami. Madali kami
Hindi,
umaamin.
I hope that
Nagre-retract kami
media
pag mali.
media will live up to that trust, no, even improve it.
But I will
But
also say we're majority by only marginally 51% yung big trust sa media. We just got over the line there.
And there's about 3 out of 10 are undecided with regard to trusting media, for that matter. But what it points to is that when we ask this question regarding these institutions and their trustworthiness with regard to addressing the problem of corruption in flood control projects, it's specific to flood control projects. So we have not done this in the past. It only suggests that those that have investigated so far, there's ambivalence on the part of the population rather than trust. Because if you look at the Senate, 36% are undecided whether to trust or not. The House of Representatives, that's 40%. The Ombudsman, 43%. So whatever these institutions would do, ICI is 56%. If the Independent Commission for Infrastructure will not open up their meetings, this will definitely retain that ambivalence or even lead towards distrust, because the call has been to make public, live stream at least a number of their meetings so that we know what has happened there, whether there was someone who went berserk in a meeting or whatever statements any of the officials, because up to this point we have not heard from them except maybe from the spokesperson.
Professor, mukhang you've mentioned na mukhang nakalimutan nga si VP, no? Dahil sa enormity of this scandal. But what if the scandal also points to Davao City and people known to be close to her? Halimbawa, yung mga kapatid niya. And si Bongo, although they don't see eye to eye, mukhang nakatuon na sa kanya ngayon yung pansin eh. You think magiging Teflon pa rin si VP? Can she isolate? Can she distance herself from the scandal? Gusto ko sakali lang na mapunta na sa Davao yon.
Hindi natin alam kung anong patutunguhan ng mga investigasyon sa ngayon. No? Kasi lumalabas ngayon na tungkulin yan ng Ombudsman, di ba? Well, let's see what the Ombudsman will do. Essentially, I think the job of the Ombudsman now is quite critical for our democratic processes in terms of security and accountability. Let's hope that the Ombudsman, I heard Ombudsman Remulla saying that they would really carefully study this and file the cases when they have sufficient evidence to file the case. So let's see, because the Ombudsman eventually will be the institution that would pursue all of these cases against erring officials, including those that are linked to the Vice President.
And it's interesting that you mentioned yung panahon ni GMA kasi nasustain siya, no? Nasustain siya for several years yung galit ng tao. And it was reflected in the election of course, no, although may impact yung pagkamatay ni Cory Aquino, but it was a sentiment against corruption, di ba? Ang tanungan ngayon ng mga tao, can we sustain this outrage to affect the 2028 vote? Sa tingin niyo, as a pollster, and considering the previous experience?
As a pollster and as a political scientist, I hope it will be sustained, Hami. We had a question in the corruption module where we asked whether rallies or protests can help ensure the accountability of officials. The polarities are in agreement to it. Although 31% are disagree, which means that they have reservations about the impact of these rallies. But that doesn't mean that they will not in any way, this doesn't indicate that they will not participate or they will not in any way express their protest, especially come 2028. But the thing here is that how do we make sure that all of these things that eventually reflect on the lack of that dishonesty on the part of a number of officials would eventually register in the ballot box in 2028. One of the striking things that we got in the survey was that 90% are saying that there's collusion among executive, members of the executive, the legislature, and private contractors. You may even extend that, not just private contractors, even the private sector for that matter, with regard to other transactions involving government. So if you have 9 out of 10 Filipinos saying that there's collusion, and 97% saying there's pervasive corruption, I hope that these expressions of opinion would eventually carry over to 2028 and that more Filipinos would think twice in terms of voting for individuals who are linked to all of these illicit, nefarious, and really objectionable activities or actions.
Pero sir, medyo madaya yung sagot niyo kasi when Ami asked you if we can sustain the outrage, ang sagot niyo, I hope so. I'm wondering if you have any data that may show
trending.
na
Is it gaining momentum? Is it slowing down?
Is it going to take root among voters? And
Is there going to be a trigger?
Kasi for example, sabi niyo kanina, one of the things that you found in the survey is that people think corruption is normal and pervasive. I don't know how you define normal or how people in the surveys define normal. Is it normal meaning na it's always happening, or is it normal na parang it's acceptable na? Is it normal na tipong we're resigned already to it, that it's going to be there all the time? Yun po. So what do you think?
Well, hindi naman siya acceptable, no? It's just that they think that corruption is something that you will see, in the normal course of politics. Whether it's acceptable or not, definitely there are other indicators that people do not necessarily accept it. For example, when we ask them whether they think that the ones involved in these anomalous transactions will be punished, their aspiration or their hope, 7 out of 10, is that they will be punished. Now, Ed, in relation to your question, if they do not see anyone being punished, then that would definitely spark more outrage, right? As I mentioned in one interview, if you're cited in contempt in the House or the Senate, you will be put in detention. And some of them are put in detention in Pasay City Jail. If, for example, some of those who are accused eventually are found to be liable and are issued warrants of arrest, and they're not necessarily just small fish or fingerlings, I hope that the big fish would not be put in the PNP Custodial Center, but be put in the same Manila City Jail or Quezon City Jail. And that will testify to the sincerity of government. But
Yes,
of
sir.
course, that's a hope, Ed. And here, that's too much to wish for, given all of our
Hope springs
history,
eternal.
given all of our history in terms of where people who were in power, were eventually placed when they were charged and arrested.
Yes, sir. Pero sir, in line with that, there are so many times in our history, recent history, where we've seen so much outrage, and people actually were convicted and all that, but they were almost elected again as president. For example, Erap. He was number 2 in 2010. If not for Pinoy and Cory Aquino dying, he could have been the president all over again after being convicted of plunder.
That's where the institution that is most trusted by majority of the individuals, can definitely assist media in terms of sustaining.
So it's our job.
In terms of sustaining the report with regard to all of these things that people have to be remembering.
Si Prof naman, binigyan pa tayo ng
because
trabaho. But,
Pero
it's not just
Professor,
media.
it's also because hindi sila napaparusahan eh. So people think okay na eh. They don't go to jail, they are pardoned. Kaya yung tatanong ko, paano kapag walang naparusahan dito? Will we see outrage fatigue? I call it outrage fatigue, and people will say, balik na lang, pare-pareho lang naman yung mga yan. Is there a big danger of that happening?
I think that would be the risk that government will get into, because as I said, Ami, you have 70% thinking that the people who are liable should be punished. If no one is punished, and I think people are aware of who are the ones who have made the decisions here. They cannot escape the responsibility and say, no, it was just this other person who made the decision. It's just the appropriations committee chair. How can the leader of the lower house not know what the chair of a committee has done or is doing? So in that sense, there has to be, they have to be answerable, no? For their actions,
Prof?
whether it's an act of omission or commission for that
Yeah.
matter.
Prof, sorry, we're running out of time, but I just have to ask you this. Coming back to the numbers for the institutions, 23% lang yung big trust for the ICI. At first, I thought, okay, maybe it's because it's a new body, people don't recognize it yet. Pero actually, yung awareness niya is 93% amongst your respondents. So the awareness is high, except the trust is low as an institution. And you already said that, okay, people want to see the hearings live stream, but is this the only reason that there's such little trust for the ICI as an independent commission? Or meron ba kayong more of a qualitative data around why people don't trust this institution?
Well, the ICI, the majority opinion is more in terms of ambivalence. They cannot say if they trust or distrust the ICI. So that means it would really depend on what the ICI would do or has been doing. And hopefully, they do come up with live streaming of their meetings. It might improve the trust rating of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure.
So you're saying,
and then if they start charging people also, passing on the reports to the DOJ or the Ombudsman, then that would mean, as Ami pointed out, if yung parusa matagal pa yan Pero yung ma-charge lang sila, ma-arresto lang sila, malagay lang sila sa kung saan dapat sila ang kinalalagyan. Siguro yun na yung panimula na maniniwala ang tao na pwedeng pagkatiwalaan ulit ang mga institusyon ng pamahalaan.
wala masyadong bearing yung the people that were put in there.
No, not so much, because it's really a question of what would be the indicator that they're doing their job, that they're pursuing people who should be held accountable for all of these corrupt activities. The best indicator for that is really people are charged and arrested. And so far, we have not seen anyone arrested except for those who were cited in contempt in the Senate.
Ng Senate. Pero is it also a factor na hindi sila kilala ng tao? Yung mga ICI. They don't talk to anybody. Except Babe Singson.
Except Babe Singson, yeah.
Well, as a group, awareness is at 93%, but that's superficial when we ask them, no? But of course, they will have to be, well, like the Ombudsman, for example, right now, the Ombudsman has been engaging in regular media interviews. I think the ICI should do the same. Maybe there should be more detailed reports about what they are going to do, rather than simply echoing what another agency has done. For example, the last time I listened to the ICI, they were just repeating what the PWH Secretary Vince Dizon said with regard to the number of those projects. So the redundancy is something that doesn't help the Independent Commission for Infrastructure.
Can you repeat that, Prof? About the part about them needing to give more interviews? Because honestly, it's very, very hard to get them. I mean, we've been trying. And as you said, it's not very transparent at this point. But we shall leave that there. Thank you so much for joining Storycon today. Ronald Holmes, Pulse Asia President. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, ayan hindi na tayo yun The ICI needs to speak to the media more because the media is the only institution that has majority trust, to summarize what he said.
Wish mo lang.
Laki ng ngiti niyo.
Wish mo lang.
Kahit 51% lang, just over the line. At least 51, yung Senate nga, what was it, 30, in the 30s, 37% trust
Ano yung
in the
ICI?
Senate.
What did ICI get?
ICI is 23.
23.
TPWH is 7, single digit. My goodness. House of Representatives at 25% trust only. So, these are dismal numbers all around for the government. And the other statistic we weren't able to break down with Prof. Holmes is 7 out of 10 Filipinos in their survey showed that they were dissatisfied with the administration's handling of corruption, as we can see, right? Okay, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining Storycon. I'm Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Join us again Monday, 4 p.m. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.
Happy weekend!
Happy weekend!
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.